All right, I just played this game here and had a moment to myself, so I thought I'd share it. Um, let's back this up real quick. We'll try to make it short and sweet. I'm black, he's white. It's a 3-minute game. We both had about the same ranking at the onset of things. So pawn to king 4. I play a Sicilian. Pawn to queen bishop 4. This is a little unusual. Usually you see knight to king bishop 3, but instead you get a knight to c3 here. Not real sure what that variation is called, but nothing to worry about quite yet. So I kind of continue as normal with pawn to queen 3. And then you get an f4 from white here, which is really kind of like a delayed Grand Prix attack, or maybe just a Grand Prix attack. Um, it's kind of a common way to combat the Sicilian defense. So I'm not too worried about that. Knight c6, that's pretty flexible. I'm kind of eyeing up the d4 square there to see what's going to happen. And, tries to pin my knight there with bishop to whatever that is, b5. So I put my bishop up there to prevent that. And bishop captures knight, bishop captures bishop. Okay, nothing crazy yet. Pawn to queen 3, so this is going to be a closed Sicilian. White is not choosing to like open up the game yet. Things are going to stay kind of closed for a minute. My turn, knight to king bishop 3. Got to get those knights out real quick in the game. You don't want to wait too long. Knight to king bishop 3 by white. Pretty good move. And a little unusual idea by me here. Usually, let's see if I can get my little drawing thing going on here. Where's it at? There it is. Normally I kick this pawn forward 1 square, maybe even 2, and develop this dark squared bishop out this direction. But today, for whatever reason, I decided that I would probably work on fianchetto in this bishop and get the bishop to this square so that it controls this long diagonal, because white has committed himself, pretty much to this pawn structure, and that's going to leave this long diagonal open. Plus, because he's played f4, he's weakened, you got a lot of weak squares that are dark here. So what I'm going to do is try to capitalize on that. So it's my turn. Pawn to knight 3, preparing to fianchetto that king bishop, and white castles, and there goes my bishop. Okay, still setting up. White, not real sure. I guess white's trying to transfer his queen over to the king side for like a king side attack, but I just castled to kind of finish my development, and I got a pretty good setup here. Material, of course, is still equal. I really don't see too many problems with white's position, but we'll see what happens. Here comes white's queen. I don't quite know the purpose of bringing his queen in that quick was. I think that's a little premature. He maybe should have developed that dark squared bishop. But so he brings his queen in here. I don't see any immediate threats, so I carry on here with this pawn move. I got some space on the queen side, and I want to get things rolling over here in this direction. So he advances the f-pawn, but I really don't see that as a threat yet. So I don't want to say I ignored it, but I ignored it. It's my move, and I push this pawn. All right, so that's going to dislodge that knight, and he really doesn't have any good squares to go to, in my opinion. I think I think this knight should have come forward, but he backs it up. I think maybe a knight to d5 would have probably been a better move. But he backs up the knight. That's kind of an awkward looking setup. My move, and I'm just going to continue to push on the queen side there. So now what I'm doing with this move, and the sneaky little idea that I got here, let's get there it is. I want him, this is actually like a sacrifice that I'm offering, right? Because he can take this pawn, and then I can't retake. But if he takes this pawn, then you see I got this knight and this bishop, and they're both eyeing this pawn. So if he takes this pawn, I'm going to take this pawn. And that's also going to open up the scope of my dark squared bishop. So that's my plan. We'll see what happens here. All right, so I offer that pawn up, right? Excuse me. And now it's white's move. He doesn't take that. I thought he would take the pawn, but instead he brings his bishop down here. He's trying to, take my bishop out and weaken the defenses around my king. I suppose that's a good idea. But I move forward. I'm taking. you know. And now I'm threatening to get to the back rank here. I'm threatening his knight, but he carries on. Moves this other knight forward. I mean, that looks threatening because there's a bunch of pieces around my king, but I really don't see an immediate threat because of that move. So, pawn captures knight. Now he's got to do something, or else I'm just going to take this rook, and he's not going to want that to happen. So, he bounces his rook up a spot. All right, not too bad, except now queen to b6, and as you can see real quick here, the queen has just pinned this rook. Right now the rook can't move because the king will be in check. So this kind of puts white in a little bit of a predicament. It's a nice little sneaky queen to b6 move that I like to use. So bishop captures bishop, king captures bishop. I'm still not really in any danger, in my opinion. His queen and knight are pretty close to my position, but so long as my knight stays there, I should be all right. All right, so white relieves the pin off his rook, but by doing that, he allows me to unleash kind of a combination here. All right, knight captures pawn, knight captures knight, bishop captures knight. Now, if white plays queen captures bishop, then I'm going to play queen captures rook. Let's take a quick look at that with our little drawing. All right, if white takes this bishop, no problem, except the queen is guarding that rook. So queen captures bishop equals queen captures rook. And then he's got problems, because if I can play queen to, what is that, f1, then it's good night. All right, so he lost a minor piece there. All right, so bishop captures, right, I just played bishop captures knight, and now he can't take that bishop. But this was a pretty good move on his part, I thought. It moves that pawn forward, check, and then pawn captures, and that allows this. But, again, I saw that wasn't quite that dangerous. I'm not really going to get mated. I can just back away from that, which I do. Now it's white's move. He picks up that pawn. All right, I kind of didn't like that, but I'm still looking pretty good. And let's push my pawn up a little bit. It protects my bishop, and then also now you see like black is threatening to exchange queens. So white has to decide what's he want to do. So if I'm looking at the board, as you can see down here, I'm up, 4 points or a minor piece and a pawn. So I'm up in material, so I don't mind exchanging queens because I'll have the better end game, right? Rook, rook, bishop versus rook, rook. I'll take that end game any day, right? So I offer the exchange of queens. White declines it. All right, so it's my move. When I play rook to, c8, threatening rook captures c2. White kind of ignores my move, and I play rook captures c2. He doesn't want to exchange, and bishop captures, and we're done here. This is mate because, obviously, he can't move here because of my queen. He can't take my bishop because of this rook, so that's a quick checkmate. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. Let's find the stop button.